Through the course of my paper, I focused on concepts of diversity and individuality within libraries. I completed my observation at a public library, and over the course of 3 separate visits, I was able to piece together a few trends that seemed to be at the center or focus of the reference librarian services. For this presentation, I'll focus on a particular experience, which happens to be my favorite experience from the entire observation. This experience involved a classroom visit at the public library and a very fun but also very encouraging and successful example of utilizing reader's advisory skills as a reference librarian. The public library I observed holds classroom visits a couple times a week. This involves classrooms from a nearby school who walk to the library and spend a half hour to an hour browsing for books, returning books, checking out new ones, or reading quietly, depending on the instructions given by their teacher. Occasionally, librarians within the children's programming department will read a story to the class, but this depends on the program schedules and the class visits. On one of the days I was observing, a classroom of 3rd graders visited to return books and have an hour of quiet reading downstairs in the children's section. For the observation, I was sitting with a reference librarian who also happened to work as the youth collections and programming coordinator. In my actual paper, I referred to her as the CP librarian for children's programming to avoid confusion with the other librarians I observed with and to maintain her privacy. During this classroom visit, a student approached the reference desk but then walked quickly away as if he had changed his mind. The CP librarian and I were talking, but she stopped in order to see if the student needed help. The student then stood to the side of the desk, swinging his arms and eyeing us carefully, but shyly. The CP librarian turned to him with a smile on her face and kindly asked him if there was anything she could help him with. It was here that I noticed she utilized that first step of reader's advisory appeal called initiating the conversation, which is discussed in Chapter 24 of Smith and Wong's text, Reference and Information Services, an Introduction. The CP librarian was aware the student needed something, but was clearly nervous about approaching the desk, and she put her reference skills to use and noticed him first. After that initial greeting, the student approached the desk and the CP librarian was able to use other steps mentioned by Smith and Wong. The student was looking for a newer book in a series called Dog Man, which is juvenile fiction, but he had searched the library's OPAC downstairs and couldn't find it on the shelf. The CP librarian searched LS2 under titles and items to see if the book was in reshelving, and turns out it was. She was able to go behind the circulation desk to the shelving rooms and brought the book to him. While she was doing this, the student also asked about another book, and he wanted something similar to the Dog Man series. The CP librarian then asked if he was interested in more graphic novels or perhaps he wanted another series featuring animals. The student told her he would like more books with animals, and he liked graphic novels, so the CP librarian told him she would gladly take him downstairs to show him more books featuring cartoon animals. I think she ended up showing him Garfield, Stick Dog, and Stick Cat, which he was thrilled about. This entire transaction was incredibly cool to witness. The student was clearly overjoyed, leaving about 45 minutes later with both books tucked under his arm, and the CP librarian had achieved another successful reference interview and had been able to help him find a new book using some reader's advisory techniques. The librarian was patient, helped him pronounce titles, asked him his favorite animals, and genuinely cared about helping him find the right book. She supported his interests and encouraged him to find something just right for him, which I think is an important concept to remember when entering reference services and even other library fields. I hope you've enjoyed this little experience I've shared, and thank you for watching my presentation.